Hello, everyone. Hi. Welcome back to another interesting and power-packed episode of TeaTalks Tuesday. So today, I hope everyone are back to your normals after the long Dasra vacation. Full busy. I hope all of you have celebrated the Dasra Navratri festivals and you're back with your routine. And today we have an interesting speaker with an interesting session. And yes, growing children is definitely an art. So let's learn how we can master this art today. So we have Chitra Pillai today here. So I would like, so Chitra Pillai is a licensed NLP coach and a trainer, founder of NLP Center for Excellence. And she's also an author of book Feel and Heal to Seal. Okay, and Chitra Pillai, her passion for understanding human behavior and helping people manage themselves better has put her on a journey with a vision to spread NLP among the masses. Hence, she has worked on creating programs that are easily relatable to the challenges faced by individuals from all walks of life. Chitra Pillai believes in the mantra that emotions are what drive us to do what we do and how we behave. Hence, learning how to identify and manage emotions is the basic step on our journey in life. So her previous experiences with corporates, being a homemaker and an entrepreneur has enabled her to develop various programs for various target audience. So she does career coaching, assessment for students, teachers, and psychometric assessments for individuals, organizations, either for recruitment, training, promotion, or for coaching, mentoring processes. She believes in developing, empowering, inspiring, motivating, and energizing people to put them on their path to success. I'm sorry. Sorry for that. And as I said, she has authored a book called Feel and Heal to Heal, which is about accelerate your growth journey. And when you feel and heal your emotions to steal your success. And she's not only that, she has also co-authored the book by name Gratitude, Invaluable Life Lessons, which would be published soon. So she has contributed articles in various publications on career coaching with NLP, emotional intelligence, the key to successful relationships. So here is Chitra Pillai, and welcome Chitra, welcome to TeaTalks Tuesday.
Yeah, thank you, Mayuri. It was a really long and wonderful introduction. Thank you so much for that. So, hello everyone, welcome to this session. And today, let's understand on how our kids, I mean, for whom we are striving so hard, I mean, in life, especially whether it is our personal or professional journey, somehow they are our lifelines, right? So, how can we add value to our parenting journey is what I'm going to be speaking about. And of course, keeping that in perspective, how cognitive development and emotional wellness in our kids is so relevant in today's times, right? So let me just quickly share my screen so we can take it forward from there and also understand how we can help our rather it is I think it's more about our kids, it's more about us as parents. Like it is how we, I mean, obviously, because there's no school to teach us on how do we parent our kids, isn't it? I mean, you get a lot of degrees in life, but then there is no school which teaches you parenting. Of course, there are a lot of parenting coaches and parenting sessions that are being conducted. That is overall, I would say, it's more of experience which has taught us, and of course, some professional qualifications also which are relevant for that really adds value. So now let's look at as I mentioned, cognitive development. So what do you understand by cognition as such? So cognition is something where, I mean, if I have to put it in very simple language, I will not even get into the technicality or, look at giving you a definition for cognition, because that anybody can Google and find out. But the idea here is to keep it very simple, is cognition is your thinking processes on how your brain functions, right? So it could be as simple as, for example, I'm talking, it is all, I'm thinking and also speaking at the same time, right? So that is a part of my cognitive process as well, isn't it? So, how does this evolve? Now, even keeping our kids in mind, cognition is a part which, of course, it peaks between the age group of 3 to 14 years. But the moment the child is born, the development is continuously happening. Or I would say the moment the child is conceived in the mother's womb, that's when the process actually begins, right? But we visibly see a noticeable, I would say, growth in our child's cognitive development from the ages of 3 to 14 years, and of course it continues lifelong. And as we age, I mean, like, let's say, I mean, that's why you might have noticed, like, over 60 years above, uh, rather 50 years and above, there is a cognitive decline,
Right.
right? So that is all because of the aging process itself. But however, that can be delayed if we follow the right kind of habits. And yes, nutrition also plays a major role in our overall physical as well as mental development, right? So let's look at how nutrition plays a major role initially, and then of course I'll take it forward to into the other aspects. So as I mentioned, anything related to the child's growth and development begins from the time the child is conceived in the mother's womb, right? So from the rather conception to the period of 2 years, that's when there are a lot of benefits for the child in terms of the nutrition part of it. Why? Because what the mother eats during her pregnancy and even after the post the delivery, because also the mother is breastfeeding the child, and at the same time we are feeding the child and taking other aspects to it. So let's look at how we are able to look at nutrition and the developing brain in, I would say, in collaboration as such. So it aids in faster language development. That's where we all have noticed. I mean, as mothers, we might have noticed how soon, how quickly our children are able to grasp language, right? They are born and they are not able to communicate with us. Of course, they communicate with us only through their sign language, or maybe they're crying. All that is also a part of communication, isn't it? And then the nutrition, I mean, it is so I mean, I would say it plays such a major role that even behavioral issues are related to nutrition. So a child, let's say, now of late we have come across so many other developmental issues in children, in terms of, let's say, it could be autism or developmental delays in children, or in maybe attention deficit disorders in children. There are so many other challenges that have come up. However, if you notice, if you kind of connect with a qualified nutritionist, they would be able to guide you on what are the foods that can aid in their in helping them grow into more I would say balanced individuals, and at the same time also stop those behaviors which could be repetitive in nature. And it is actually surprising to note that, even, I mean, sometimes as parents, we don't realize we give what we eat. I mean, we think is okay for, because that's how we have grown up, right? So, but at the same time, when we notice there is a lot of, I would say, I have come across parents who are not willing to accept that something as small as, I mean, because we've always had sugar in our food. I mean, whether it is tea, coffee, or any laddus and whatever sweets that we have now during the festivals and all that. But however, even that sugar can cause a lot of behavioral issues. It can cause hyperactivity. So it is all about being, I would say, more educated and aware as a parent as well, right? So yes, it can add a major flavor to your child's behavior issues, which, as a parent, if you are more aware, you can really add make that difference in your child's life, because the child doesn't know anything. You as a parent are responsible, and I think it's worthwhile to it's worthwhile for you as a parent to educate yourself in all the aspects of child development. So it is not only about kind of giving birth to your child and just looking after their basic necessities in terms of giving them food and all that. But what is the right food, what is the right activity for their growth and brain development also plays a major role, right? So yes, as we are aware, the healthy birth weight and the head size and all these are related to the conception part of it. Fine motor issues, yes, we all understand what is, or rather, let me just give a quick brief on what is a fine motor, this thing. So we have certain muscles, small muscles in our, fingers, which are related to our fine motor skills, right? It could be drawing, it could be painting, it could be holding small things, small objects, right? So even writing for that matter is a fine motor skill, wherein your small muscles, your fine muscles are involved, right? So anything to do with your child's development is also related to the nutritional part of it, which can also address so many other, as I mentioned, the behavioral issues, the other developmental issues which your child might be facing. So yes, of course, the better wired brains is where I'm talking about better thinking, the faster thinking, I would say, the cognition. So this is where the cognitive capacity of the child is at play. So the more you are able to focus on the child's, I would say, the nutrition as well as the right activities for the child's growth, that's when you are able to kind of nurture children in a manner where they are able to grasp things faster. Their language development is much quicker. So I mean, I think of late, there have been a lot of challenges in the growth of kids. It could be something to do genetically, it could be to do something with the way the children are raised, and of course with both the parents working, there are challenges in terms of giving the required attention and attention and care for the child. And yes, there is also another aspect that more and more nuclear families are evolving. Earlier it was a joint family system, so even if the parents are busy, somewhere the child is taken care of by the other relatives and the people in the house. But somehow this is we are growing as a society as well. There are a lot of changes in the way we are in the way we have grown and how we are raising our children as well, isn't it? So a lot of dynamics, the family dynamics have changed. So that's where I think it helps if the parents take on this added responsibility of raising their kids with a lot of awareness, right? So yes, as I mentioned, even the IQ scores. So I would like to mention here, see, higher IQ scores doesn't mean that the child is extra brilliant or anything. It is just that, and of course, it's a dynamic IQ. What I mean by dynamic IQ means it will always keep fluctuating. So just because a child has been diagnosed with, let's say, 100 IQ, it doesn't mean he or she will remain 100 throughout their life. It is a dynamic IQ. So if there are certain activities which are focused on working with the child, then definitely there are chances that the IQ scores of the child can improve, right? So I mean, I don't think that is a parameter to decide whether your child is brilliant or not. So let's not get disheartened by, or more, I would say, elated by whatever the scores could be of your child. So the idea here, or the the intention of me conveying here is, this is not your child's mark sheet, right? Like in academics, we say, okay, my child has scored 95% or 80% or whatever the scores are. And we as parents probably, I think it's more of a rat race, I would say, wherein we evaluate and kind of pit each other's children against the scores that they have got. Because I see, somewhere I would say the education system is also at play here, because the higher the scores, you get admission into a better college or a university, and that's how it works. And that's one of the reasons which is fueling this rat race, I would say. But somewhere as parents, we should realize on, is my child developing in a holistic manner? I think that is much more important rather than just focusing on the academics or the scores, right? So one is the IQ score. Yes, there is, I mean, people would say, okay, high IQ score, that means my child is going to perform better at school. Yes, there is no doubt about it. But at the same time, along with higher IQ scores, if your child is also emotionally stable, emotionally intelligent, that would really define the child's success in life, along with the performance. right? So it is not just the school performance which is going to decide your child's success. It's also the child's emotional well-being that will help in deciding. I would say deciding in help in your child become successful in life, right? It's more of life skills, I would say, rather than just the academic skills at play here, right? So let's understand a little bit more on cognitive science, on cognition, what it is, and how can we relate this to the discussion that we are having today. So basically, cognitive science, it is more to do with the study of the mental processes that we have in place, right? So when we speak about the mental processes, if any of you would like to contribute and help take this discussion in terms of understanding what are those cognitive processes. Anybody would like to contribute?
Anyone in audience? We can go ahead, Chitra.
Yeah, no issues. So basically, when we say cognitive or the mental processes, it's also the thinking process, the problem solving, the analytical skills, that's where the logical thinking, all these, the reasoning part, the understanding part, even the memories, like for example, if you remember something from your childhood, some incident or an event that has happened with you in your childhood, that is because of your cognitive thinking, your cognitive process, I would say, right? So you're remembering your memories, your how you evaluate situations, how you perceive the situation, how you understand that, how you learn from what you observe around. All these are a part of the cognition process, right? So that's what helps in developing our perspective towards life and so many other things that we have come across, right, on a daily basis. So this is, of course, this is a little bit more on the scientific part of it, wherein Mr. Piaget was, he's a psychologist who has come up with the cognitive development theory. So according to him, there are 4 stages of cognitive development, right? So from the time the child is born, like 0 to 2 years, 2 to 7 years, 7 to 11, and 12 plus years. As I mentioned, it's a lifelong process. And of course, it declines as we age. But at the same time, we can delay the decline by following, or rather the right habits, I would say the right nutrition, having the right nutrition, as well as the activities that stimulate our thinking, right? So when it comes to 0 to 2 years, now this is the period when, I would say it's more with the sensory awareness of the child, because the child is just observing, looking around and seeing, and that's how they learn and perceive the world around them, right? And of course, they are not, that's, you might have seen young kids do not really go open up to strangers, basically, right? So they are not really friendly. Of course, there are very, very few of them whom I've also come across, where they very easily go, they will smile with any, smile at anyone, and they would easily go to any stranger. That also is dangerous, actually. So at the same time, let's look at how this progress happens into the next 2 to 7 years, which is where there is a lot of, you might have noticed a lot of growth in your child's, the way they even reflect, or I would say they kind of express their emotions, and they understand people also much better, right? So this is where their reasoning is developing, and role plays, or I would say pretend play, is something
True.
that they really learn during that phase. And yes, 7 to 11 years is the next stage of thinking, wherein they are able to kind of understand, of course, their logical thinking is much more enhanced, and their mathematical reasoning, their how can they, their language understanding is much, much, much better. They understand analogies, they are able to relate to people and the world around them, in a much more effective manner. And then comes the 12 plus years age. This is where the abstract reasoning, this is the phase when the abstract reasoning or the abstract logical thinking of the child develops. And yes, there are of course a lot of physical changes also in the child's body, whether it's a boy or a girl. It starts off when they are young, between even the time from 7 to 11 years. And by the time they are 12 plus, most of them have come across. And of course, I would say emotionally they are evolving at a much faster pace at this age. They're maturing well, and at the same time they're also very vulnerable.
True.
Right, they are also very vulnerable at this stage, because there are a lot of things they are not able to understand what is happening to them, because physically they are changing, but at the same time mental development is still not that they might have grown physically, but yes, mentally they are still that childlike. They are still in the childlike phase. So that causes a lot of confusion during that phase in that child. And it is on us parents, rather than arguing and I would say, kind of rebelling. I would say fueling the rebellious behavior in our children. It will help if we, get more friendly, open up with them, and how we can, as parents, really, understand them better, because this is the time they need us the most, I would say. Rather, we feel that, okay, now they've grown up, so they don't need us. It's not, our duties don't end just with feeding them food, So, of course, when they are younger, they need our support in terms of the food, because they are not independent in eating and all that. So they need a lot of care and support, in terms of the food habits. But yes, even when they grow up, we don't have to feed them, but yes, we need to, I would say, emotionally feed them, I would say, where we are available to them when they need us. And I mean, you need not actually, I would say, do helicopter parenting where you are just hovering above them always, but be available and make sure that you make them aware that you are available in case they need you.
True.
That is very important. You don't have to be around 24/7, because I understand we all are working. And of course, that's not healthy for the child as well, because then they will not become independent. They will be all the more dependent on us as parents in case they are going through this phase. Right. So that is something which we as parents need to understand on how we, I think it will help if we also understand this phases of cognitive development, and how we as parents can contribute and I would say accelerate our child's cognitive development. Right. So because I would say, it is like what you sow, that is what you will reap. So whatever you are feeding your child, whether in terms of the nutrition, whether it is in terms of their emotional development, whether it is in terms of their cognitive growth, all this is what will help your child evolve as a confident adult. And yes, a lot of challenges, which I will also be discussing on what are some of the challenges which parents are facing in today's generation, I would say. But let's also understand another aspect in terms of multiple intelligences. So we had spoken about, the IQ part of it. Now, however, IQ is something, as I said, it only analyzes your mathematical, that is your logical thinking, and the linguistic, which is your language, the kind of, the verbal, non-verbal communication that you have. However, other than this, there are, 6 other areas. Dr. Howard Gardner, he is the one who has come up with the multiple intelligence theory. And here we have, different, I would say, kinesthetic. Now, when I say kinesthetic, it's more about how physically involved, or, how you use your body to understand the world. Now, here, when I say body smart, or when I say kinesthetic intelligence, here I mean, maybe somebody is good at sports, somebody is good in dancing, so wherein they are using their physical movements, so not everybody can dance, or not everybody is good at sports, right? So somebody may be good at chess, so that is not a kinesthetic intelligence, that is more of a logical intelligence, right? So similarly, people smart, so interpersonal skills. So there are children who are very good with people, they can go and talk to anybody and everybody, and they're so comfortable around people. So that is where they are people smart. Similarly, as I mentioned, linguistic is to do with your language skills, mathematical is to do with your numerical, your scientific ability. Nature smart is your naturalistic. Now, what we mean by nature smart, observing environment. I mean, they're more conscious about the environment. Their, history, the archaeology, all these areas, of work interest them. So that is something to do. They observe nature. They like pets. So these are some of the areas in terms of naturalistic intelligence. Self-smart is more of an introspection. So sometimes we call people introvert, Or, we say, okay, this child doesn't speak to anybody, he's very shy. So it is not necessarily shy. What I mean here is the child could be, it's good to be introspective, I would say. That's where your emotional balance really evolves. Now, why am I saying this? Because whichever profession we choose, it is important that we also are introspective. We learn to be, to learn to reflect on our own actions and communicate with ourselves before we communicate with others. Right? And then comes visual, which is picture smart. Yes, we observe they're good at artwork or anything to do with the visual memory as well. So, and musical, which is to do with your music. They understand music well. Maybe they are good at singing. They could be good at instruments. They could be good at perceiving music. Right? So all these areas of various multiple intelligence also play a major role. Now, why am I focusing so much on this? Now, because in school, rather at school level, our academics plays a major role. And that's where our primary focus, as even as parents, we focus mainly on, okay, my child is weak in maths, so I have to put him for extra classes for maths. Or maybe he needs help with grammar, so let me put him for extra classes in grammar. At the same time, if the child wants to play chess, or let's say he or she wants to play, participate in some games, or let's say even just go on a nature tour or photography or whatever, that is something we as parents do not really encourage. Why? Because we feel, oh my God, that is a waste of time. He better focus on his studies. Right? So please understand one thing is, yes, of course, we need to focus on academics till our school level, which is because that's how our education system has been framed, because your child needs to kind of get a certain percentage to get to the next level, which is all fine. But at the same time, do not let your child's other intelligences die off. Let you as a parent is the best person to observe what is your child's strength, understand what your child's strength is, and of course it is coming only through observation. So the more time you are able to spend with your child, you are able to understand what he or she likes, what is his or her natural inclination towards, and that's how you'll be able to guide your child better. So I'm not saying that focus only on one area. It is an overall holistic development for the child. Right? So whichever profession we are in, I mean, you might be a doctor, an engineer, or let's say, an accountant, or whichever profession, a coach or a trainer, whatever. Even then, you still need to have all these intelligences. We cannot be zero in one intelligence and say, okay, I'm good at this, so I'll do only this, because it will impact your, social interaction as well. Right? You cannot be a zero at being self-smart, because that's also a part of whatever you are as a person, because you will not be able to, it shows up in behavioral challenges. Right? So if a person is low on self-smart, or let's say intrapersonal skills, automatically it will show up in behavioral issues. Similarly, interpersonal. So all these are interrelated, and we may have it in varying degrees, which is perfectly all right. And what I mean here is, just focus on all the areas, and of course highlight, or you need to have understand what are your top 3 strengths and take it from there. But at the same time, you cannot neglect the others, is what I mean here. So we as an individual, as a human being, we have all these intelligences in varying degrees. So we just need to identify what are we really good at and kind of nurture that so that we are successful in life. So the same thing applies to our children as well. Right? So it is important for you as a parent to understand yourself, and yes, also help, rather understand your child, so that you can help your child in a much more effective manner. Right? So now coming to the major pain points of today's parents, I would say today's generation, what are the major pain points as parents we face is, somehow we feel that my child is growing into a very arrogant or a stubborn individual. Right? So this is one major pain point. Second is, my child is getting hyper. Right? He or she cannot sit in one place for a long time. He keeps fidgeting, or, is very destructive, whatever we call that, So that is something, this thing. And TV mobile addiction. This is one major issue which is cropping up, and especially I think with the COVID challenges where children were at home most of the time. This is one major issue. It was already a major issue before as well, but now with this, it has kind of accelerated. And now children are finding it difficult to get back to school, I would say, because they are so used to sitting at home and having their own a lot of free time. And because virtually everything is virtual now, even our meeting is virtual here. But however, are you using technology for the right purpose, or is it being misused? Is something which you as a parent is in a better position to guide your child in, right? So
Right.
just because if you are busy, you tell your child, okay, you can go and play games on the mobile, or let's say PlayStation or whatever, or you can watch some TV serials or whatever. So it doesn't take a long time for the child to get habituated,
True.
right? And then you cannot blame the child. Oh my God, my child is always watching TV. He doesn't listen to me. I mean, all this is somewhere we ourselves have triggered that behavior in our child. And now we are not in a position to kind of take it back from them or get them back on track. We as parents realize it when it is gone off hand. I mean, like, when it is beyond our control. And that's when they approach therapists and coaches with saying that my child doesn't listen to me. But then by the time it is too late in the sense, because there is a habit formation that has already happened. And then to stop that child from doing what he or she is already habituated in is definitely a challenge, because yes, because I mean, they will definitely rebel, because they have created a comfort zone around themselves by doing those things which are giving them pleasure. And if you take away that pleasure, things which are causing them pleasure, they are definitely bound to rebel, right? So it is definitely on us as parents. How can we give or set the right, I would say, boundaries for our child? I'm not saying don't let them watch TV. I'm saying choose or help your child choose what is right for them. And yes, limit the time, time frame, so that they know that they're not supposed to be watching TV for beyond, let's say, 30 minutes in a day or something like that. Or even if they're playing a game, not beyond 10-15 minutes in a day. So again, it is, see, again, it's, I would say, the mind is very, very, I mean, it gets carried away, right?
True.
So I mean, even if you tell your child, okay, you are supposed to play only for 10 minutes, do you think when you are not there, the child is going to play only for 10 minutes? He or
No.
she will continue to play. And how much can you monitor the child? It's not always possible to be physically there to see what your child is doing, right? So I think it's more about setting the right habits right from the beginning. So instead of playing a game, how about giving them a book to read, and
Right.
setting that space of getting them to read as a hobby or a pastime for them. So that could be, those are certain things. Maybe even drawing can help, so certain artwork, whatever you feel. I mean, the idea is only gadgets is not what is essential for them to keep themselves engaged. There are so many ways. These gadgets have come in very recently. How you just remember your own childhood on how you had grown up, right?
Right.
So I mean, just I think I would say, like, there are a lot of things that we can learn from our childhood. Yes, we need to evolve. I'm not saying that you have to follow this same thing. Be more creative. You are modern parents now, so just think, but at the same time keep your culture alive. Though you are into modern day of life, you still need to keep your culture alive, and see what are those good things that you can carry forward, and set the space for your child to grow up in a more safe space, right? Yes. And low self confidence is another major issue. These are, I've just highlighted the four major pain points here for parents today. And low self confidence comes with negative self talk. So also remember what we as parents are speaking to our child. Watch what you speak. You
Right.
may not be aware. You may not be aware. If you just casually throw a statement, you're not good at anything, you're good for nothing, or you're useless. See, we may say it in a very casual manner, we may not mean it, but somehow you're wiring your child's subconscious.
True.
So this is something I think we as parents have to be very, very careful on what we speak to our child. And it is not only to our child, also in front of our child, when our child is around. They may not be in the same room, but they are around in the house probably, and they are always watching you. They're always listening to you. They're always aware of what is happening around them. So they need not be physically sitting close to you and seeing what you're doing. But the moment they're around, even when you're talking on the phone with someone, they are still aware. They may not be in a position to understand what is happening, but yes, they are grasping each and everything that is being said. So, and that may bounce back at us much, much later. Maybe after a few years also, you never know that your child might come up with similarly. You might have said something negative about something to somebody, and your child comes back with the same kind of language or communication to you, and you must be wondering who taught him that. It was you who taught, right? So the idea is, I think it is more about we as parents raising our own self-awareness on what are we doing around our children. Are we spending time with them in a productive way, or are we really I would say, we feel we are spending time with them, we are around them, but probably we are on our mobiles, chatting with someone, or watching some YouTube videos or whatever, right? So it is not about being in the same room as your child. What I mean is engaging with your child, involving with your child, understanding what is happening in your child's life, right? Now, same thing, if we have to kind of, as I said, and even when a lot of parents come to me and say, my child is not, he's so addicted to junk food. He doesn't want to eat what is cooked at home. How will they eat? Finally, who has got him addicted to junk food?
We as a parents.
Yeah, we as parents only. If we have the habit of going out, eating out, I'm not saying eating out is bad, but frequently eating out, yes, is not really good for us. But the challenge is, we as parents encourage those habits and finally find it difficult when the child is, got so used to eating out. And of course, it's heavy on the pocket also. The hotel bills don't come cheap any time if you go to a good restaurant. And at the same time, it's not good for health as well. Right? Eating fast food or junk food is not really. And why am I highlighting this? Because it also adds to behavior issues, which most of us parents may not be aware. Or probably, I know it is very convenient to go out and eat rather than cook an elaborate meal at home. But how about involving your whole family in cooking? I mean, involve your kids, involve your spouse. Why? Because it makes it as a fun event for the family. You need not have a 4-course meal always. But what I mean is, even if you're cooking one item, make it the healthiest possible thing, which contains all the nutrients, and which is also good for the child, for your overall development, physical as well as mental. And I'm focusing more on the, of course, physical. You might have noticed even young kids are obese these days. A lot of obesity has been noticed even in young kids. And all that has stemmed with bad eating habits, bad, I would say, rather than playing a physical game or something, they sit in front of the TV or PlayStation and play games on the thing. So where is the physical movement here? Right? So what I mean here is, it's all interrelated. And I'm sure you, once as parents, once we realize what this is about, we can really create you can make your family time so much of fun, whether it is cooking meals together, playing games together, whatever it could be, going on walks together. So you can have a family chat while walking. It's all on us on how we utilize that time. So now let's say, okay, people say, okay, COVID, we can't go out to now. I think things have opened up, not now. I mean, this was about, let's say, 6 months back, or about 8 to 10 months back, when things were this thing. But yes, you can create that family time even at home. You don't have to go out and work. You can create some sort of a small game within the house itself. Right? So it's all about being creative as parents and seeing how you can make the most of what is available. Yes, it is going to take extra efforts from your end, considering the modern day challenges of parenting. But at the same time, it's going to be worthwhile, because once your children are off track, it's really, really very difficult to get them back on track.
Very true.
Right? So you will, parents repent once the damage is done. But how about being a little more conscious about the way we want to really raise our kids? And sometimes there is also a misunderstanding amongst the spouses on how the child should be raised. So it really helps. I mean, there are many mothers who say, my husband doesn't listen, or the husband says, my wife is very casual, she doesn't want to put any restrictions on the child. So I think it will be helpful if both the parents sit together and agree on what are some of the areas where they need to lay strict boundaries so that the child doesn't take advantage. I mean, if the
Right.
mother is strict, they should not come to the father and say, okay, when they know that the father will agree to something. And similarly, vice versa. So, if both the parents agree, let's say TV time, so it has to be a common TV time. The father cannot say, okay, watch for 2 hours, and mother says only for half an hour. It should not be that way. It has to be a common understanding, common, something which has been kind of agreed upon by both the parents, and then that is communicated to the child, so that the child is also aware, okay, that these are the boundaries that are set for me, and I need to ensure that I don't cross those boundaries. And as children grow, I mean, they'll be going out to meet their friends and whatever parties and all that. So we need to really be very sure. I mean, from when they are young, if you have let them loose, don't expect to put boundaries when they grow up, right?
Right.
So it has to be a common thing right from their childhood. And yes, as I rightly mentioned before, also it has to be in agreement with both the parents, so that there is congruence in the way you are parenting your child. And even if one parent is not there, the other, the child knows that this is my boundary, I need to follow it. Whether mommy is there or daddy is there, it doesn't matter, right? So I mean, it really helps if the parents can communicate with each other more effectively, and that's where the communication matters amongst the spouses as well. Now, coming to the mindset. So as I said, today's generation, it's not only children, even we as parents or as adults go through a lot of emotional turmoil, I would say. A lot of challenges, whether personal, professional, some COVID scenarios, many people have lost their jobs, money not flowing into the house, or maybe 50% salaries, cut down on salaries, so many other challenges, maybe loss of a loved one, whatever. I mean, people have lost their family members during COVID. So when you see so much of negativity around, what happens to your own mindset? You also tend to start feeling low. And that is when you need to be emotionally strong. Why? Because the moment you are emotionally able to balance, despite all the negativity around you, if you are able to build on your own mindset, that's what will help you bounce back in life.
True.
So it's more about you being aware on what is going on within you. When I say what is going on within you, be aware of your emotions, of your feelings. And once you are aware of your emotions and feelings, when you realize that, okay, this is something not a very good state to be in, because if you allow yourself to be in the negative frame of mind, what happens, it doesn't take a lot of time for you to fall back on, get back on your motivation levels. And yes, you start something called as self-pity. And that is really dangerous, I would say. Self-pity is dangerous.
Right.
You should empathize with people, that is all fine, but when you start feeling self-pity or feeling pity on someone, that is not a very good space to be in, because it will impact your overall behavior, your social skills, the way you interact with people, all that, and you start kind of feeling, oh, you are the only one who's having a lot of problems in life. And it is not like that. Not everybody wants to communicate what is the challenges. So they may have a very cheerful, demeanor, but then at the same time, they have their own challenge, but they know how to deal with those challenges. Because just because I have a challenge, I don't have to pull down everybody around me. Right? So it is good to be uplifting others, rather than kind of literally suck the energy of others by telling your problems to others. So I'm not saying don't share your problems, but at the same time, go with a solution mindset. Go with the mindset that yes, there are solutions to things around, to whatever challenges we face, whatever problems we have in life. There are certain solutions. I may not have the solution, but maybe if I approach someone, that person may be able to help me with their solutions. So I need to have an open mind. You get my point? So if I have an open mind when I communicate with someone, and that is what I feel, if we are able to help our children develop that kind of a mindset, they will be able to bounce back, I mean, against all the odds or all the negative, whatever challenges they face in life. And I would say today's, children are also facing a lot of stress. We feel, okay, they are very young, what problem they have, they are being taken care of, all their necessities or their needs are being taken care of. So what are their challenges? They have their own set of challenges in today's this thing, because see, life has changed. People do not find happiness in the small things. They want big things now. Right? So when they need those big things to find happiness, it adds a lot of pressure on the child as well as the parent, because the child comes to the parent with the demand.
True.
Yeah, so their demands are also higher. But at the same time, if we are able to build on the IQ, the EQ of the child, the child will be aware of the family situation. Okay, you may be able to afford a expensive gift for your child, but is it really necessary? And do you want to really satisfy your child by only giving them gifts, or being available for the child when the child needs you? Right? Because no amount of money or no amount of gift can really replace your, a parent's love and attention.
Right.
Because those are the memories that the child and the parent both will create for the later years in life. I mean, like now, for example, at today's stage, if I have to remember, I don't remember what are the gifts that my father bought for me. I remember the time that I spent with him.
True.
Right? So those are the kind of memories that you should look at creating with your child. And as I said, it is more about building your child's EQ. IQ will develop if your child's EQ is really good. Because you might have also, I would rather give an activity to all of you, in case if you are not now, I mean, maybe after the session is over, you all can just spend some time, just identify who were your schoolmates who were toppers in class. I mean, all the toppers in class, and just find out what are they doing now.
Okay.
Yeah, just find out what are they doing now. I mean, they may be really good. I mean, that's really wonderful, because they have also developed a high EQ.
Right.
EQ along with their IQ. Right? So the idea is, not all successful people, I mean, like when I say successful, I mean academic success does not guarantee life success.
Very true.
Right? So that is where we need to realize as parents that let's not get caught in the rat race. Let's focus on building our children, or helping our children evolve, both, I would say, in a more holistic manner, where they are able to handle life more effectively. Any setback in life, they are able to bounce back. That is what we need to teach our child, because I mean, this is not something that I'm telling to scare the parents, but depression or anxiety among children is also very high. And even suicide rates among the addiction levels, the drug addiction, smoking, all these are very high amongst school going kids as well these days. Right. And so this is a menace. I would say, if as parents, if we are able to kind of educate them, not thinking that, oh, as a parent, how do I speak about this to my child? It is important that you as a parent tell them what are the challenges, what are the consequences of doing certain things. So if you have an open discussion, an open conversation, that is when your child will feel safe and free to come and discuss that with you. Whatever, in case even if they have done a mistake, they will come, they will feel really happy to share that with you, that, okay, this is what I've done. I know that I've done a mistake, but then I will not do it in future. I mean, that is what we want our children to grow up as, so that they don't start hiding things from us, and kind of treating us as aliens, or some enemy, where they don't want to share what is going on in their life with us.
Yes.
And for that, EQ plays a major role, right? Okay. So as I said, the best part about EQ is you can easily work on developing the EQ. Of course, it will take a lot of efforts, and it is not a one-day job. It is constant efforts. As a parent, you need to be along with your child in this journey, because it's not only developing your child, it's also developing yourself first. You can help your child only when you can help yourself grow as a person. Right? So that's where we need to make a lot of changes within us. We need to come out of our comfort zone, and only then can we help our child grow into the individual that really we want them to grow as. Right? A more stable and a sound person who can take his or her decisions and understand what is right and wrong and live life to the fullest. That's what I would say. I mean, that's what we want as parents, right? It's not that we don't want our children to be, I mean, of course, now I think that expectation that children should take care of us is also not there.
It's not that.
Right. So there was a time when parents used to feel, okay, my child has to look after me when I grow old, just as I looked after him or her when they were young. The idea is, I mean, there's no harm in that, but at the same time, the idea is, I think there is nothing more satisfying for a parent to see that their child has grown up to be a respectful individual, where he or she respects others, values others, and I mean, a more humble individual is what I would say. Of course, they are successful. I think once all these qualities are developed, automatically success is guaranteed. Right. And I would not define success by career or money or any of those lines. As I said, success is very, very subjective, and it all depends on what we as individuals or we as parents convey to our children. So let's look at how can we identify or analyze our child's cognitive. This is just a quick overview, not too much into it. So as I was speaking about the multiple intelligences, how can we analyze our child's dynamic IQ, the focus levels of the child? This is something to do with the cognition part of it. The speed means the speed at which the brain is processing information, and the creativity levels of the child, and the learning style of the child. So whether your child is, a kinesthetic learner or a naturalistic learner, interpersonal, whatever, the child's learning style, visual or auditory. So all these. So it is good if we as parents are able to identify what is our child's learning style, what is our own learning style. Because I may be a visual person, but if my child is kinesthetic or auditory, I should know how to relate with my child's learning style, because I can't expect my child to adapt to my learning style, but I need to adapt. Because of course, I as a parent, it is not only as parents, it is even when we as adults are interacting. I may be a visual, maybe if you are an auditory or a kinesthetic person, I should be able to kind of relate with you as a kinesthetic person. Right. So the kind of language that I use to communicate, the activities that we do, all that will vary. So this is just to give a quick overview on the analysis on how the dynamic IQ appears, or the focus factor of the individual, the decision making ability, as well as the creative quotient of it. So this is for like children above 3 years, 3 to 14 years is what we conduct these kind of cognitive assessments, which helps in understanding the child's abilities. And wherever there are gaps, we kind of recommend the kind of activities, because because one size does not fit everyone. What my child is may not be what is relevant for my child may not be relevant for your child. But however, we all tend to follow the herd mentality. Okay, this person's child is going for this class, let me send my child also. Why? Because we all go through that fear of missing out. We feel, oh, my child will be left behind, so let me also send my child. Right. So in the process, what we are doing, we may not be sending the child or putting the time in the right activity for the child. Okay. Right. So there are certain activities which are specifically kind of focused on your child's growth and development based on what your child's abilities are. And I think it is, as I mentioned earlier as well, it is on us parents how we can educate ourselves to help our child grow better. And I would say evolve better. And it's completely on us, on whether it is our child's nutrition needs, or their cognitive development needs, their physical development needs. Only if we are aware, if we have the knowledge, we can transfer that knowledge to our children. And of course, being a role model is of utmost importance, because you cannot expect your child to do, you cannot be simply sitting and preaching, okay, do this, do that, and you doing exactly the opposite of what you want your child to do. Right? Because a child observes and learns a lot by observation.
Very true.
Right. So that's it from me. And I think we can take any questions, any discussion points. I'm open. We can take it forward from there.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much, Chitra. It was very elaborate, very informative, and very clear. I mean, it was a great session actually. So
Thank you.
audience, if you have any kind of queries, any questions with regards to this, you can just post it. Chitra is here to help you. Okay. And I have a question, Chitra. So you
Yeah.
said that the cognitive skills kind of get reduced as we age also, right?
Hmm.
And certain practices will keep will help us to maintain that. So what kind of practices you would suggest, or what kind of checklist that we need to know
So
so that
sure, sure. So basically, see, I mean, I think we might have enjoyed a few activities when we were young. Simple things like playing a puzzle, solving
right,
a Rubik cube, or the crossword puzzles which are there. And even when I think when we have young kids, so we might be having those jigsaw puzzles,
right,
playing chess. So
correct,
all these are something which stimulates our thinking, our brain. So that is something which we need to keep ourselves engaged in. Why? See, we all do physical activity. Of course, physical activities. I mean, I can't emphasize enough the importance of physical activity. Whether it is 30 minutes of walk, whatever you do, some simple things, yoga, whatever it is, your pranayam or meditation, whatever we do. Of course, that is also equally important. But other than that, we are taking care of our physical health, but what about what is going on inside here,
right,
right?
right,
Because this is something which guides us throughout, right? I mean, of course, physical is important, but at the same time the mental is also important. So so all those activities which we are teaching our children, I would say, not from the education perspective, not from the academic perspective, but to help them grow intellectually. The same thing applies to us as well, where we can continue playing, let's say, chess or whatever is. It could be as simple as, I mean, your favorite hobby, maybe, let's say, dancing. If you like dancing, go ahead and dance.
okay, okay,
Yeah. So why am I saying go ahead and dance? Because that will keep you happy, and it will stimulate the good feel good hormones in your body, and at the same time it will also work on your cognitive growth.
correct, right, right,
And but yes, one thing I wanted to mention is watching TV is not something, I would not
oh,
recommend that as a part of relaxation or family time also, please. Because that is not going to stimulate either you or your child in any manner,
true,
right?
right,
So that is something that is not a part of cognitive development, I would say, unless you're watching some educational thing which is relevant for your this thing. But watching TV serials and movies and all really don't add much value.
true. I mean, lot of, when we take the nutrition consultation also, we do generally ask people, what are your hobbies? They generally say, watching TV, these kind of things. And what are your tips that you can help us, to make them, engage them in other activities.
See, as I mentioned, see, for example, see, we as a family should come up with something like, let's say we have 30 minutes of time every day. I mean, as a family time.
Right.
When I say family time, I mean the father, mother, and the children all are there together here, right? So we choose one activity where we can all spend that time together. So it is not about watching TV. Maybe you all dance together, whatever that
Correct.
song. I mean, you need not be yes, I think Vimal has a question. What
Yes.
about 3-year-old
r-
listening to nursery rhymes on YouTube? So if it is only listening to nursery rhymes, it is fine. But YouTube means their child will also be watching,
the other things too.
right? So what I mean here is, there is a, if the child is watching unattended, what I mean by unattended is, I'll just give you an example. There is, there is, let's say you're giving your iPad or something to your child to watch. You feel the child is watching, but you never know. You know how YouTube is. The child is watching something, but something else pops up, and then the next it goes on
Goes
autoplay
on.
mode, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that is something very risky, because you don't know what might pop up there. That is one part. Another part here is, how many hours can they watch? I would not recommend hours as such. Nursery rhymes, yes, it is good, but how about singing those nursery rhymes along with your child?
Child. True.
Right now, another way, I mean, this is something which I had done with my children when they were young. We used to recreate the stories. Now what I mean by recreating stories is, like, let's say the crow story, the pebbles, the that story. We actually set up that scene. We got the pot, and we put those pebbles inside. We saw how the water came up. So it is not about simply narrating the story or watching it on YouTube. How can you become creative? Create role plays. Like we create a tent, and we had those, that sheep wala story, which is there, the fox and
True.
sheep story. So what I mean is, you as a parent can make it a lot of fun by getting involved in these stories and involve all the family members. Each of you plays a character in the story. So it is all the more fun. The child enjoys much more, you enjoy much more, and it gets more interactive and engaging for the child.
Very true. Very true. And also, Chitra, like, due to some reasons, okay, various reasons again. So certain kind of mindset or, thought process would have established in a kid at certain point of age. And is it possible, as a practitioner or as a parents, is it possible to change those thoughts and, help them, nurture in a better way if they are, slightly, yes, I do understand, like as they grow, they may not listen to us, or, they want, but are there any certain ways that, we can help the kid to change the, the pattern, the thought process pattern kind of thing?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, for example, like I am an NLP coach and practitioner. I've been working with a lot of parents as well as even children and of course individuals. Why? I mean, it's all to do with behaviors.
Right.
And it's all about rewiring the thought process.
Right.
So the challenge here is when parents come to me saying that children don't listen to them, right? It is because they have established a certain pattern with the child.
Correct.
And the child is getting more rebellious or defiant, and they don't want to just listen to what the parent has to say.
Yes.
So that is where there needs to be someone who can show them the other side of the coin, or help them with a different perspective and help them change that thought process.
Right.
It takes time, but yes, and of course the child has to be open to change. What I mean is, if the child doesn't want to listen, you cannot just force the child to sit and listen to you for whatever you need to this thing. So it takes time, because you need to build a rapport with the child and get them into the mind frame that they are open to listening to you, and then take the next step.
Right. What are the practices? I mean, what kind of practices will help them to change their mind, as a parent?
See, as I said, the first step a parent has to do is right from the beginning. That's why I always focus, it is all about their childhood conditioning.
Correct.
How you nurture your child plays a major role in life, because once they come to a teenage level, or once they've grown up, that patterns have already been kind of set up. So and at that point, let's say your child is 15 years old now, and maybe whatever the last 15 years you have not paid much attention to your child, and now you realize, oh, I didn't give so much time to my child. But now the child does not need that much attention from you.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So the child definitely starts kind of retaliating and says, okay, now I don't care whether you have the time, I don't have the time, sort of thing,
Correct.
But at the same time, yes, you cannot get into their space, but also create a space where gradually you are mending that relationship, because the relationship is already strained. Let's understand that the relationship is strained.
Right.
So we need to kind of create an environment, a situation, and it is a work in progress. It doesn't happen in a day, for sure. It will never ever, if people are expecting quick result, oh, I've taken my child to a therapist, now she will do wonders. Nobody can do wonders, because damage has been done by you. How do you expect a therapist to do some wonders?
Very true. Very true.
Right.
Very
so
true.
the therapist can give you ideas on how you can manage your or rather mend this thing, but efforts have to be taken by you as a parent.
Very true.
Right? Because you cannot tell your child, okay, now you listen to your father or mother. It will not happen.
That's true. And also, as you're saying, like, right from the conception, it plays a major role. The nutrition definitely plays a role. But any practices that, if a mother is having, let's say, watching TV or, all these things, will that have any kind of impact after the delivery, as the child is, growing? The practices what mother is following during pregnancy, will that have an impact?
Absolutely. See, Mayuru, I mean, you might have rather in our Indian culture, we all have come across, when the moment we know that the mother is has conceived. So, extra care is being taken of the mother. They tell, okay, you must eat this, you should not eat this, you should follow these habits and whatever, X, Y, Z. So that is for a reason. I mean, if you reflect on that now, at that point you feel, oh my God, why are they putting so many restrictions on me and all that? But now when you reflect, it is because because even though that the child is still in the mother's womb, the child is able to sense the outside world around them. Yes, they are able to sense what is happening around them. They are able to identify the mother's voice, the voice of the people around them. True. Right. So even if there is a argument between the spouses, that also the child may not be able to figure out, but yes, they are able to kind of identify what is happening.
Correct. So Raksha has a doubt again. My daughter has selective listening. She does not respond to the questions we or the family or friends ask. Is it very normal?
I think, how old is your daughter, Raksha?
Raksha, you can unmute yourself and you can ask the question.
Yes, you can also, yeah.
We can discuss. You can discuss.
Yes, sure. So 3 years. So basically, see, it is normal. Again, it depends. I think you have to also be aware, Raksha. What I mean is, you mentioned selective listening. So if she's not responding to the questions, is she responding, like when you call her by her name, is she responding back?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, Raksha. Yes, Raksha, please go ahead.
Sorry, my daughter is 3 years old. And when family, friends, anybody comes home, what she does, if they ask her anything like, okay, hi, hello, she does not respond to anything. So, but the only thing, if I call her, like, come here, only to my voice, she responds. And even very selective. If she wants to listen, she listens. Or if she doesn't want to listen, she will, if I'll call her like 100 times also, she won't listen. So I was like very, I don't know, very doubtful, like what is wrong? Like, if anybody comes, she doesn't listen to them, or if they call her, she doesn't turn her head. So I was just little, you can understand what my worry is.
So
right?
basically, Raksha, does she respond to you when you call out by her name? I mean, when you address her by her name?
She does.
Okay. So is
Maybe
it every
because they are
time?
strangers, she doesn't respond. I am not sure. So I think that everybody says she's 3 years old, and because at this age she should actually respond and start talking, but her talking is very slow for her age. I believe that's the thing. But I haven't showed her to any doctor or anything so far. So I'm still thinking that, is it very normal, or is it just every child is different, as you said.
See, definitely there is no doubt that every child is different. But at the same time, with all the new age issues cropping up with children, I mean, especially with the developmental issues, with children, I would also recommend that you be more vigilant as a parent. And also, there is no harm in getting your local pediatrician could be the first point of contact to know at least whether the milestones are being reached. And as a next step, yes, if you feel that there is something amiss because she's not been very communicative as well, in that case, I would recommend that get her an assessment, like a developmental pediatrician or somebody who can help. The reason why I'm saying this is the earlier the intervention begins, the better for the child. Because because once she starts gets into the school going age, that's when the child shouldn't it impacts their self-esteem as well.
Right. Okay. Sure, Chitra. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
So on Facebook, Dr. Janki is asking, what is your take on kids being exposed to various media information? As you open any media or social media, we are bombarded with sad information and advertisements, having kids as focus, such things. What is your take on this?
No, you are absolutely right, Dr. Janki, because the thing is, I think a lot of advertisements these days are focused, because when they know that it'll be easier to sell the product to their child, they definitely kind of package it in a manner where it is easily sellable. However, I think that's where we as parents play a major role in terms of giving access to what is okay for the child to view on social media. And of course, with older kids, it becomes difficult. But if you can educate your child on the challenges of what they see on social media. Because social media is a boon, but at the same time, it is also, I would say it's an evil thing also. Reason being, there are two sides of the coin in everywhere, right? So when we speak about the boons, yes, if we are using it for the right purpose, it is very good. But as children, they don't realize it.
True.
Right. And that's where they get carried away with what is happening around. And as I said, one link you click, there are 10 other links which pop up, and you never know what you click on.
Correct.
Right. But at the same time, if you are having an open discussion with your child, speak to them openly about what are the challenges they could face. Because I think very recently what had happened is, it happened in my family. My brother-in-law was, his Facebook account got hacked, and somebody was asking money on his behalf. And there were people who knew him, and they transferred money to his account also.
Oh.
And after transferring, they called him and said, okay, I transferred. He said, why did you transfer? Because you asked. He said, I never asked anybody. That's when he got to know that his account was hacked. So what I mean here is, even without knowledge, many things might be happening. So it is better to limit access for a particular reason. Now, for example, we are live on Facebook, but this is for a particular reason.
Yes.
Right? It is not for like watching who's gone where and who's eating what and all that stuff. Right?
Correct.
So, I mean, the idea is, if we teach our child or give them alternatives, I would say, to spending time. Because see, I think social media is a huge time killer, I would say, because it eats up a lot of your time.
Absolutely.
I mean, you might feel, okay, let me scroll for 5 minutes. At 5 minutes, you never know when it goes to 50 minutes also. Right? So the idea is, I think it's more about educating your child, being more communicative with your child, explain the pros and the cons of everything. You should not feel, I mean, we as parents should not feel that, how can I discuss this with my child? If you don't discuss, the child will find some other ways to find out the information. So it is better it comes through the right source.
Right.
Right. So it is better the information is shared through the right source rather than the child finding out through other sources, which may not be the right source.
Right sources. Right.
Yeah. So I think it's all about being more open and communicative with your child. And of course, depending on the age group of the child, you have to decide on how much you should communicate and what you should communicate.
Very true. Very true. And coming to the advertisement, yes, not only the social media, even if you go out also, if you see the vendors or, they just hold those toys and they just stand on the road. And, if they find out that the kid is, trying to ask a parent, that's it. They catch that moment and, they keep influencing the kid.
So it's even if it's a balloon, they will not come to
Yes.
you. They go straight away, go and give it to the child.
Right.
Because they know once the child has got it in its hand, the parent cannot refuse.
Yes.
That's the strategy, which I think, as I said, it's very easy to buy stuff for your children. It's not that you cannot afford, but
right.
it is not necessary.
Correct.
So is it necessary for your child is what you need to ask yourself.
Yes.
I'm not saying don't buy balloons for your child or don't buy toys for your child, but not every week.
Every week or every time.
Let it be some occasion. Let the child know, okay, when it is his or her birthday, he or she gets a gift.
Right.
So I think that culture which we had as youngsters was very good, where we know, okay, birthday means we'll receive a gift. Right. Or not necessarily a gift also, maybe just some sort of sweet or something which, a family time or something which makes us happy. Right. But now if you make it every other day, what will happen? The child will lose the value.
Right.
Right. There will be no value for the gifts that you give them. There will be no value for the time that you spend with them. I mean, it is all up to us on how we create that culture in our family.
Right.
At home, how we educate our children. It's very, very important. I mean, money cannot buy everything for our child. Please understand that.
Yes.
And it is not about simply gifting your child for doing something good. It is like bribing your child, I would say.
Very true.
And then you will have to fight corruption.
From the family itself.
Yes, absolutely. You'll have to fight corruption at home in that case.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, we are like almost done with the questions to Chitra. And thank you so much for being here on TeaTalks Tuesday and giving us this wonderful, very elaborate and very, in detailed explanation of all the cognitive development and, all the session. And it was really, really very informative. And from Team TeaTalks, I would like to say thank you once again for being here and hoping to see you soon again for any other interesting topics, more topics. And yeah, so that's all for this Tuesday, guys. See you all next Tuesday, same time, same place. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Mayuri. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. Bye.